And for review, you've already reflected in the last lab your biceps femoris here. And take that caudal curl abductor with it. So that's been reflected. You've also reflected your gluteal muscles. So the superficial gluteal here has been reflected. Middle gluteal here, that's also been reflected. So that you can see your sacrotuberous ligament is actually a good marker to start with. So sacrotuberous ligament is here, and you can cut that to help you see some of the muscles we're looking for today. And then your sciatic nerve and vessels that are going over across here can be cut and reflected. And that will help you to find your internal obturator tendon is the goal here. So the shiny part is the internal obturator tendon. And you'll want to try and find that. It may have these little muscle bellies coming across over top of it, and those are the gemelli. So gemelli is just one muscle, but it looks like two, because the tendon is so tight coming across there that they bubble up and over. So you may have to kind of move those out of the way to get to this internal obturator tendon. So once you isolate that, you can cut it and reflect the internal obturator tendon and see that synovial bursa down there, the shiny part. And then you'll see that gemelli is in fact this whole part here underneath that tendon, and then these two little parts coming up and over is all one muscle belly. So gemelli, and then the internal obturator. If I move the sacrotuberous out of the way, here's your tendon of internal obturator, but then you also have the fleshy part, the muscle belly itself, of internal obturator muscle right here. Okay, so then reflecting your stump of biceps femoris up and out of the way, you'll look just ventral to the muscles you just identified and look for quadratus femoris, kind of a square-shaped muscle right there. All right, and then we'll move down to the ventral side on the medial aspect, where you were transecting and reflecting on the last lab. So here's gracilis that was reflected, and you also cut and reflected your adductor muscle, which is this big muscle here. And as you did that, you were being careful not to transect your external obturator muscle. So that was underneath, which is this fan-shaped muscle right here. So external obturator there, just underneath adductor. So again, just cranial to adductor, you had pectineus that's been transected, and then you have your femoral triangle here with your femoral vessels. So just deep to that femoral triangle, if you lift those up, you can see iliopsoas. So iliopsoas here, and we have two parts here that are visible. So iliacus is the more fleshy part here, and then psoas major is kind of shiny and tendinous in this view. So psoas major, iliacus, making up iliopsoas right there. Okay, and then we'll move a little more cranially. So you've transected and reflected your sartorius muscle, and you've transected and reflected your tensor fasciae lata muscle. And those should be out of the way. Then you have quadriceps femoris under those. So we're looking at it, and quadriceps femoris, the analogy is a hot dog in a bun. So here you have the hot dog part, which is the rectus femoris head, right here, and then this would be the bun. So rectus femoris, you're cutting and reflecting the stumps, and then you'll be able to see all three parts of the bun. So take that out and reflect. So rectus femoris being cut and reflected. And then on the bun of quadriceps femoris, you have a lateral side, which is vastus lateralis here. You have a medial side, which is vastus medialis here. And then in between those, you have the bottom of the bun is called vastus intermedius. So that would be just this bottom portion in between the medial and lateral sides. All right, so we'll put rectus femoris back in. And that is quadriceps femoris, altogether 4 heads. Okay, moving down to the knee and the crus. So we'll look at the patella on the next lab, but you'll see the patellar ligament extending down here, but we'll look at that closer on the next lab. Then here you'll have biceps femoris and the fascia lata kind of extend down over the cruce, and you want to lift those up. So reflect them. Don't cut through the fascia lata completely, but you want to get it out of the way so you can see these muscles. Then on the foot, so you have skinned down to about here, and you'll want to take the skin off down to those proximal interphalangeal joints, just so you can follow some of these tendons of these muscles. So skin down to the toes. You don't have to skin the toes particularly though. And then you'll have the deep curl fascia, which will be covering all of these muscles. So it's similar to the forelimb where you had the antebrachial fascia, where you have to take it off in sheets. But the deep curl fascia also has these parts that you want to look for. These are retinacula. And as you're taking those sheets of fascia off, you want to be careful to preserve these. So this one, I'll put the probe under, is the crural extensor retinaculum. And then this one is the tarsal extensor retinaculum. So crural, tarsal, extensor retinaculum. All right, then we have muscles that we need to identify. So the cranial tibial, on the cranial aspect of the tibia, right here, a big fleshy muscle, and then has a tendon that goes down to the medial side. So cranial tibial, you want to isolate that, lift it up, and underneath you'll find the head of long digital extensor. So long digital extensor is next, and then long digital extensor, you can appreciate the tendon coming down and splitting into 4 and going down to the toes. So you want to look at that and see the split. That's long digital extensor. Just caudal to long digital extensor, you'll find fibularis longus here. So here's the muscle belly, and then it has this long tendon. So long, longus, fibularis longus, right here. And then just caudal to fibularis longus, the tendon, you'll have this smaller tendon, the lateral digital extensor, which you kind of have to uncover. So you get in between here and lift up your fibularis longus head, and there'll be this small little head of muscle, which is lateral digital extensor, right here, coming down. And then lateral digital extensor, you can also trace down to the lateral aspect of the toes here. So then if you lift up those tendons and move them out of the way, then you'll have fibularis brevis, right here. So a little bit smaller and has a short tendon. So brevis means short, so it's helpful to remember. So brevis, short tendon, and longus, again, is long tendon. So hopefully that'll help you remember those. And that should be it for lab 6.